Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to make this two-color fisherman's rib scarf with this I-cord edging on both sides. I had posted the scarf video a while back, just the fisherman's rib two-color scarf, and somebody had asked about how it would look with an I-cord edge, and it was at the back of my mind, but I didn't quite get to knitting it until recently. I had to just play around a little bit to figure out getting a nice neat edge. And I posted I-cord edging and cast on cast off videos earlier in the week, so I thought it'd be fun to make and post a video of this scarf with the I-cord edges. Now you can see that this particular scarf, I've put the edging on both sides. I did not do a cast on or cast off edge. I just did a regular edge and put these pom-poms at the end, which I've just tied with bows really, so you can take them off if you need to wash the fabric or wash the scarf. And because it's fisherman's rib, it is completely reversible. You can see on one side the darker color forms the ridges, on the other side the lighter color forms the ridges or the contrasting color. And depending on how you work it, you can change up the colors so that whether you get a more prominent darker edge or lighter edge. So I've provided the pattern for this exact scarf down in the description field, and the yarn that I used for this was this Caron Simply Soft acrylic yarn. It's 100% acrylic. It's 5 ounces each skein, so about 141 grams, and I used one skein in each color. Now this yarn here is a variegated yarn. I didn't use this one, but I used one in each color, the light blue and then this darker bluish green color. So I've provided the details in the description field below, and let me show you how to knit the scarf. Now in terms of complexity, I would put this at an advanced beginner or an intermediate level, just because fisherman's rib by itself is a little bit of a complex stitch, not as complex as brioche, but it gives a look and feel very much like brioche. So for this demonstration, I'm using these two colors. This is going to be my lighter color, which I'm going to call color B, and then my darker color I'm going to call color A. Okay, so with the color B, or the lighter color, I'm going to cast on my stitches, and the pattern tells you exactly how many stitches to cast on. For this demonstration, I'm going to cast on 16 stitches. So I think I have 14 on there. I'm going to cast on a couple more. I'm using the long tail cast on, but you don't have to. You can use any type of cast on you want. 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. Okay, I think I need one more. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Okay, I have 16 stitches. Now, if you decide to use the same exact yarn and the same size and needles, etc. as the pattern in the description field, then you can cast on the exact number of stitches. But if you choose a different yarn, you can always make a small swatch sample and figure out the gauge for your stitches. But what you want to do is you always want to have 3 stitches on either end to make the I-cord edge. So I have 3 stitches. I have 16 stitches here because I have 3 stitches and 3 stitches, and then I'm going to do the pattern, the fisherman's rib pattern, in between these 10 stitches. So an even number of stitches in between, and then 3 stitches on either end if you decide to have a different yarn and different needles. Okay, you do need double pointed needles for the pattern. So after you've cast on the stitches, okay, that was the end. We cast on. You want to slide the stitches over to the other end. And now we're going to start with this darker color, our color A. Leave about a 4 to 6 inch tail. And we're going to start by doing a setup row. The setup row is only done once. And so for the setup row, you're going to knit the first stitch. Now remember, the first 3 stitches are the I-cord edge. So now we're doing the I-cord edge pattern. You're going to knit the first stitch, all right? Oh, let me actually do that one more time. So if you're new to joining colors, you'll leave about a 4 inch tail or so on this one. Just make a loop like that. You don't need to make a knot. Insert and hook the loop on and knit. Okay, so you knit the first stitch, then you're going to bring the yarn to the front. You're going to slip the next stitch purlwise, just like that. Then you take the yarn to the back, and then you're going to knit the next stitch. That part is the I-cord edging pattern. Now we're going to do the setup row for fisherman's rib, or the setup pattern for fisherman's rib, and that is just a knit 1, purl 1. So I'm going to knit 1, purl 1, all the way through to the last 3 stitches. And because I have an even number of stitches in between, I will end on a purl 1, before I get to the last 3 stitches. So knit 1, purl 1, and for the last 3 stitches you're going to do the same thing as the first 3 stitches. So you're going to knit 1, bring the yarn to the front, slip purlwise, take the yarn to the back, and knit. Okay, and then tug on this yarn just to tighten it up. Now you'll notice that both your working yarns are at the same end of the needle. That is when you turn the work. Now the setup row that we did, we're only doing it that one time. All right, now begins the proper fisherman's rib pattern. It's a 4-row pattern repeat. And so for the very first one, since we just finished with this darker color, this color A, now we start with color B. So I'm going to take this color B, and for row 1, you're going to slip the first stitch purlwise without doing anything to it. Leave this yarn in the front like that and slip the first stitch. Okay, then take the yarn to the back, then you're going to knit the next stitch, then bring the yarn to the front, and you're going to slip that stitch without doing anything to it. Now take the yarn to the back and you start the fisherman's rib row 1. And for this one, for the very first stitch, you're going to knit 1 below. So here's the stitch. We don't want to knit into the stitch. We want to knit into the stitch, the hole that's below the stitch. And you can see that right here. Insert your needle in there and knit it. Bring it out through there. And then drop the stitch. And it'll feel very weird to drop it because we haven't done anything to it. But you can drop it. All right. So that was a knit 1 below, or a K1B. The next stitch is just a purl. So the entire row all the way down to the last 3 stitches, you're going to do a knit 1B and a purl 1. So here we go. A knit 1 below. So again, find that hole there, insert it into the hole, knit, drop, purl 1. We'll do that a few more times. And the bulkier your yarn, the thicker your yarn, it's easier to spot this hole. The skinnier your yarn, that hole can be really small, but you can tease it out usually. All right, purl 1. And you come down to the last 3 stitches. I'm tug on this to tighten it up a little bit. Last 3 stitches, you're doing the same thing. Leave the yarn in the front, slip the stitch, take the yarn to the back, knit, bring the yarn to the front, slip. Now, don't turn your work, slide it to the other end. Now we're going to do the same I-cord edging, the same stitches that we did for the I-cord edging. We're going to do the same stitches, but now we're going to work with this next yarn. And then in between, we're going to do the second row of the fisherman's rib. So for the I-cord edging, it's the same thing. So you're going to slip the first stitch, take the yarn to the back, knit, yarn to the front, slip. All right. And then for row 2, you're going to take the yarn to the back after the I-cord stitches. Now you're just going to do a regular knit. So knit 1 and a purl 1 below. So bring the yarn to the front to purl, but instead of purling in the stitch, you're going to purl into the stitch below, that hole below, and you're going to drop off this stitch. Keep doing that to the last 3 stitches. So knit 1, purl 1 below, knit 1, purl 1 below. And I'm using a little bit bulky yarn for this demonstration just so that I can show that below stitch a little bit better. And I'm knitting it a little bit on the looser side too than usual, than how I would normally knit. Purl 1 below. Okay. And if these yarns are giving you a problem, you can always just tie a knot and tighten them up. All right. All right. So when you come to the last 3 stitches, you're doing the same thing as the first 3 stitches. So you, with the yarn in the front, slip, take the yarn back, knit, bring the yarn to the front, slip. Both your working yarns are at the same end of the needle, so you're going to turn your work. So you've done row 1 and row 2 of the fisherman's rib. You'll start to see the pattern form. And on the rows of the I-cord edge where you're doing a knit 1 first, that's going to be sort of your right side, and this is going to be the wrong side. But really, with fisherman's rib, it doesn't matter. I think it's reversible. But in terms of the roll of the I-cord edge, it's rolling inward this way. Okay. All right. So row 3, we just finished with this darker color, which means we're going to start with the lighter color. So for row 3, we're now going to knit 1 for the I-cord edge, bring the yarn to the front, slip, take the yarn to the back, knit, and row 3 is a knit 1, purl 1 below. Same as row 2 for the Fisherman's rib pattern that we just did, the row 2, but now we're doing it with the other color. So purl 1 below, and keep doing that to the last 3 stitches. One more, and then for the last 3 you're just going to do the I-cord edge. So knit 1, yarn to the front, slip 1, yarn to the back, knit 1, slide to the other end, and now you're going to pretty much repeat the same thing for the I-cord edging with this darker yarn, but in the middle part your pattern is going to change for the Fisherman's rib. So here we go. Knit the first stitch, bring the yarn to the front, slip, take the yarn to the back, knit, and now we do a K1B, P1. Okay, so again K1B, so not knitting into the stitch but into the stitch below, and you're going to keep doing that till you get to the I-cord stitches. And one more repeat, knit 1 below, purl 1. And the I-cord edges, it's the same thing. So take the yarn to the back because you're going to knit the first stitch, bring the yarn to the front, slip, take the yarn to the back, and knit. Tug on this yarn, make it a little bit tighter, and you'll start to see the Fisherman's rib forming. You can see that the ridges are in one color on one side and in the other color on the other side. And Fisherman's rib looks a little wonky. The first few rows it looks like it's the stitches look really big, but once you knit a little bit it'll start to look really pretty, and you can see the I-cord edge forming on either side. So it's rolling in this way, and after a little bit your work will start to look like this, and you'll start to get that pretty edge. So in my piece here, this would be technically actually sometimes it's hard for me to tell. No, that's right. This is the right side edge because the roll is happening. No, actually it is the other way around. See, it's hard to tell because even though we have the roll, it doesn't quite look like the roll, but it is rolling this way. Yeah, so this would be the right side and this would be the wrong side. So there you have it. This is how you do an I-cord edge for a Fisherman's rib scarf, and I would highly recommend putting in proactive lifelines because Fisherman's rib is not a very forgiving stitch if you have to take off the stitches and pick up the stitches again. So after you've knit a little bit, everything looks pretty, go ahead and put a lifeline, and then that way you protect your work. Because believe me, I have a few boo-boos in this scarf that I've done where I wasn't paying attention when I got to the 3 I-cord stitches at the end, and I'm sure if you look you'll find a couple boo-boos in here. So do the same thing here. I would say, you know, put lifelines, and also one other thing you could do is you could also put stitch markers here between these first 3 stitches and last 3 stitches as a reminder that when you get to those, that it's the I-cord pattern there and not the Fisherman's rib pattern in between. And that's it. So I hope you give this one a try. If you have any questions at all, leave me comments, hit the like button, share, and subscribe to my channel for all my upcoming videos. As always, thank you so much for watching, and happy knitting!